Hey, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. I guess we're going a little bit earlier than last night. Last night, I think we started right around 11. Whoa, I'm still here. My buddy there, what would Lou Thez do? Lou, let me know if you can hear me, buddy, just to do an audio check. Um, Boy. Lou, give me the heads up, man, if you don't mind. Just let me know if you can hear me. So WrestleMania 41. Wow, 41. Congratulations, first of all, to the WWE. This is their second year under the what they call the Paul Levesque era, no longer the Vince McMahon Jr. era, and that's a big change. And maybe we'll talk about that in the course of events. We're going to be here for about an hour tonight. At least Gonzo is. Gonzo is was my co-host last night. He's coming back tonight. Lou is in the comments. Lou, you're welcome to comment. Please do if you have any specific thoughts or questions, topics, subtopics. The topic, of course, is WrestleMania 41 Night 2. Let me see if there's any lasting things from Night 1 before Gonzo gets on here that I want to say. Oh, here's one thing about both nights. There seems to be a kind of a weird camera angle, or maybe it's a different camera, but it's when they introduce the wrestlers, especially before title matches. I noticed this last night with Charlotte and with Charlotte and not Mandy Rose, fucking Tiffany Stratton. It seems like the camera makes everyone look like they're an AI. Does anyone else notice this? But at the beginning, when they're doing the introductions of Charlotte and Tiffany, I noticed it. And tonight, I noticed it several times. Cody and Cena. It's like I don't know if it's a Black Magic Cinema camera, which is a camera that I used for a film I did, Disregard the Vampire, Mike Messier documentary. If it's something like that, or is it some type of enhanced, as they called it, AI uh, camera? I'm actually writing, can you hear me, in my own comments. Hopefully, what would Lou Thez do is still here and give me a comment just to let me know if you can actually hear me, folks. That would be nice. Um, and I don't know. I mean, the show tonight was an improvement. About the AI camera, what did you think? I mean, am I imagining this, or does anyone else seen certain when they're introducing the wrestlers before title matches tonight and last night? It seems like a weird effect where Rhea Ripley and Io Sky and the other lady there, Bianca Belair, in the first match. I seem to notice that. So, in any event, folks, if you're watching, thank you. Like I said, my co-host plans to be here. Good old Gonzo. Mike Gonzo is his name. I'm just checking my messages to see if he's backed out or something. But apparently he's got a dog he's got to walk once in a while, and so forth. But like I said, we're on a little bit early tonight. Tonight, the show ended about, I would say, a good 20 or 25 minutes earlier than last night. I think tonight was a lot better as far as just overall action. And it actually, speaking of that three women's match that started the show, I thought as soon as that match ended, I knew it was going to be a better night just because I wouldn't say that the drama was as good in the ladies' title match tonight as in the main event last night, but it was pretty comparable as far as action. Obviously, with the Heyman stuff and the fact that you've got the heavy hitters of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and CM Punk, the stakes are much more raised and everything. But I thought the women in that first match was an excellent way to start tonight, and I thought that beyond the main event last night, I'd say that the three women had a match better than everything but Roman, Seth, and Punk from night one. So that's a pretty bold statement. And I think one of my issues last night was that when they started off with the yeeting with Jey Uso winning that title, that the crowd yeeted itself out, is how I put it. Basically, that the crowd did their emotions, just got exasperated by yeeting so much. So anyway, If you're here and you want to comment, please do. I'm still waiting for good old Gonzo, but maybe his dog is taking an extra big shit, and Gonzo's got a big plastic bag full of dog shit. When I walk a dog, I typically like to walk a dog at night so that people like other neighbors don't see me walking the dog. So if the dog happens to shit in someone else's yard or near their mailbox, I just kind of leave it there. You know what I mean? Because I'm happy to walk the dog, but I didn't sign up for cleaning up a dog's shit. Okay. So, I mean, the dog can carry his own goddamn plastic bag. Or the other thing that I'll do is I'll kind of leave, like, I won't, I'm walking the dog with the leash. And if the dog hop in somebody else's yard, I pull him out. I'm like, no, because we're going to go head to a tree, like a patch full of trees that's in between 2 yards, because I don't want to have to clean up your mess. I'm not going to degrade myself by picking up the shit of another animal. Okay. All right, folks. So here's all our results from tonight. Of course, they don't have the results in order on this thing, but I can figure it out. The first match was, as I said, the Women's World Championship triple threat: Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and Bianca Belair. The second match, I believe, Sin City Street Fight. This was actually better than I thought. Drew McIntyre got a big win. I mean, I would say that he dominated 2/3 of this match and got the victory over Damian Priest. I was happy to see that. To his credit, Damian Priest probably got the best intro of the night. What was the third match, folks? Was it the Intercontinental match? Yes, I think it was. The Fatal 4-Way, Braun Breaker versus Penta versus Dominic versus Finn. New champion, Dominic Mysterio. I thought there was a nice sneaky victory for Dominic. I thought that the fact that Braun Breaker didn't get pinned kind of, it's good for Braun. And it adds some drama there between Finn and Dominic with the Judgment Day and so forth. I thought that was a really great victory for Dominic. And the fans seem to enjoy it. The fans seem to go for Dominic in this one. So that was 3. What was 4? Was the fourth one the Randy Orton versus TBA? I haven't really been seeing all this Joe Hendry nonsense or Joe Hendry mania. Its name is not even Henry. It's Joe Hendry. And I guess they said he's from Scotland or some such thing. But this is just one of those things where a wrestler is over for whatever the fuck reason. And people are excited about him. And, as far as this Randy Orton thing goes, I thought they might have just jobbed out Joe Hendry in a minute. But they didn't. They actually gave the guy a few things to do, and he got some moves in. And he was kind of the victim of his own arrogance, and I thought that was all well and good. So I really didn't have a problem with it. Randy barely broke a sweat in that one, but I thought it was fine. As far as I was kind of hoping Nick Aldis would come in, and they would actually start him as a wrestler. Let me get to the next match. There's another topic I want to get into maybe when Gonzo gets on here, which is how many wrestlers that weren't on the show that I thought should have been, or surprising that some of these guys weren't, and women too. So what was our next match? After the Randy Orton thing, I believe we went to AJ Styles and Logan Paul. I'm not too happy. I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep about it, but the fact that Logan Paul basically got a clean victory. The only but in this for AJ is but I was distracted by Karrion Kross and the brass knuckles, and AJ can kind of say that he walked away with his integrity because he didn't resort to brass knuckles, and he can blame Karrion Kross, and Karrion Kross can call him a wimp, and they can have a feud. But I mean, I guess I'm falling into their trap. I mean, the whole thing with Logan Paul is basically, how much do you really hate this guy? I guess I'm falling into the trap because I really don't like the guy, but I do admit that Logan Paul is a very great pro wrestler as far as a guy that I guess now he's a full-timer, but even when he was a part-timer, he was very good. So I give him that much. What was our next one? We had the women's tag team title match. And once again, the surprises weren't anything world breaking. They didn't bring in some, AEW talent, or they didn't bring in someone from Japan or someone that's been retired. They just brought in Becky Lynch for the tag team title match. Probably the most interesting thing about this, first of all, Liv Morgan's a very attractive woman, as we can all agree on. and she's very cute and sexy and blonde and all that good stuff. But the Valkyrie lady, I mean, just a few months ago, I was watching this woman at the NXT house shows here in Florida, and she's wrestling in front of 350 or 400 people. So here she is, good for her, in front of 60,000 plus people, and now she's a two-time champion. Or two belt champion. Now, back in the day, if this was Bob Backlund and Pedro Morales in 1981, they would have to give up one of those titles. But these days, she'll be a two belt champion, and we'll see where that goes. I mean, could that eventually have a thing where Becky turns on her? I mean, we've done that a few times with the women, with the Trish Stratus coming back and Lita and all that. But I think it's good. I guess. I mean, it was fine. The match was actually fairly decent. I remember, I guess, in Tampa, the WrestleMania from 4 or 5 years ago, the first one after the pandemic, they actually had a women's tag team title match, I think on the first night, that had it had like Natalia and it had Tamina Snuka, and I'm trying to remember who they wrestled. A couple of, I think, bigger women, because it was kind of like this very good women's tag team title match. You guys remember what I'm talking about? It was Tamina Snuka and Natalia were somehow like a Frankenstein tag team. I'm trying to remember who they wrestled. It was actually a really good match. So this match I thought was fairly good. I thought, Morgan and her partner there, Raquel Rodriguez, they looked strong in defeat. They had a lot of good chemistry. They were putting them over as a 3-time women's tag team champions, and they looked very smooth, and they just happened to lose. And I guess the man cometh around. It made me think, watching Becky Lynch back in action, they really botched her, when she was really over. And when Becky Lynch was getting over, I think that was 2016, 2017. I guess it was 2017 into 2018 when the man was like a big thing. It was really a dead creative era for WWE. People were so into Becky Lynch for a while. She was really, really good. It was just the right person at the right time. I don't think there was many men at the time that were that much over. I guess you had Kofi Kingston mania kind of brewing and stuff like that. But when Becky Lynch, when the whole lead up to her versus Ronda Rousey and Charlotte was totally botched. Why am I mentioning that stuff now? Because here in her comeback, I feel like, yes, Becky Lynch did all these wonderful things, but even when she won the title, it was the main event after like a 7-hour WrestleMania. That was the last WrestleMania in New York before they started doing 2 nights in 2019. And it just seemed like a friend of mine, my buddy Cody, went to that WrestleMania, and he said that people in the stands were falling asleep by the time they got to Becky Lynch and Ronda and Charlotte. My point, once again, is just I feel like Becky Lynch is a lost opportunity, that she never did as well as she could have. Hey, Gonzo, how's it going, buddy?
What's up, brother?
Did you have a better night tonight? You think it was better?
I mean, yeah, I do, but the last 2 matches, I don't know, bro.
Well, let me just list the last 2 matches. I was just listing that the tag team titles, that there was new champions, and I can't even say her name, Valkyrie, whatever the fuck. She's a 2-time, she's an Intercontinental Champion women's and a tag team champion women's. Good for her. I was saying that every time I see Becky Lynch, and it makes me feel that they botched her 5 years ago, 2019. I still think that as over as she was, she could have done better. I think that was the last of the Vince McMahon, like when he was kind of losing his mind type of thing. But in any regard, the final match, as you're about to get into, was Cody Rhodes, John Cena, title change. So it sounds like you got a hot hand. Go ahead and tell me what you're thinking about these last 2 matches.
Well, I mean, the tag team match with the girls was fine, but I don't know. There was really no story going into that or anything. So, like, yeah, Becky Lynch came back. That was cool. But I don't know. It didn't feel like a co-main event to me. And then the main event, I mean, it was fine. I feel like the ending was a little weird, though. I it seems kind of odd to me that the only like external factor in that whole match was Travis Scott. I thought that was kind of strange.
Okay.
And the finish kind of, I don't know, felt a little underwhelming to me. But the other thing too is I feel like last year and the year before, they really like set the bar very high for the main event. Like I feel like last year's main event and the year before between Cody and Roman were both really, really fucking good. So it was a high bar to hit. It was a high bar to meet, I feel like, in this main event.
Hey Gonzo, if you have the TV on in the background, kill the audio if you could. I hear a little bit of
Oh,
stuff.
hang on.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised you could hear that.
Well, I got good hearing, buddy. I'm from the South. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Gonzo. You are correct that the the standard of Cody versus Roman 1 and 2, and also, and Michael Cole made a good comment tonight to give him credit on the pre-show. He was interviewing Cody, and he said that you could actually say that Cody and Seth against Roman and Rock was a main event. And I guess you'd have to go back to when it was Cody versus Roman the first night. It was it the Usos against Owens and Sami Zayn.
Right.
That was the
yeah.
main event on night one. So I
Yeah.
guess we have to count like 2 main events from now on. Like just as there's 2 world champions, there's 2 women's world champions, there's 2 this, there's 2 that. Do they have 2 sets of tag team champions now too in WWE?
Well, they have men's and women's. I know that for sure.
But I think it's just the New Day has the one and only tag team title, right? There's not.
I think so. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know because I know like the Motor City Machine Guns were the tag champs on SmackDown like recently, so I'm not sure.
And they weren't even on this goddamn show,
right?
Either night, and then they didn't even do a little interview segment with them. So they didn't even do as good as my buddy Pillman Jr. Lexus King with Penn Gillette, you know. But I think what you said is accurate. I think Roman and Cody, and even the Usos and Sami and Owens, that was a really good match, and that was that was kind of 2 years ago. As far as the main event stuff, I guess you could say 2 years ago and even a year ago, it was very much at a peak with the whole, the family tree and the Samoan dynasty and the bloodline. And I think now we're like, okay, well, that's over. I'll give them this much credit. When the NWO had the top, in WCW for like the second half of 96, all of 97, most, I guess all of 98, they didn't know when to stop. Like they really didn't know when to stop with the NWO.
Yeah.
And to give WWE credit, it seems like they learned from that because they more or less, Roman loses the title and then, he goes away for a little while. And then the other one, Solo, takes over as the head guy and Heyman's caught in the middle. And then they eventually had the Ula Fala death match and Roman won. And then that's pretty much the end of the storyline. So, to give him credit, we can reminisce about recent history and say, oh, he was better with the bloodline. But to the WWE's credit, you can pinpoint that this storyline ended more or less, right?
I 1000% agree with that.
So now we have to rebuild, and I've been enjoying Cena as a heel, and I mean, if people, so I mean, I think if you watch my video where I actually met Cena in real life and blah blah blah, and I bitch about my experience with him, I think that this Cena as a grumpy old heel coming out tonight with the Spartan black, I mean, and what I like about it, Gonzo, is that he's not, as far as I can tell, he's not doing any wink and nod bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, even as great as The Rock is with charisma, it's like he never fully commits to being a heel. Like if you watch The Rock even now, he still has to get a little smile and smirk in there and play both sides. And I think Cena, to his credit, like at the beginning of the match, he was Larry Zbyszko-esque. Like he was stalling, like So I thought that was good, and I mean,
I think Oh, sorry, good.
Oh, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I know. I think that he has busted out some new wrinkles. So like stuff that he's never done before, like what you just pointed out, him like stalling at the beginning of the match, And yeah, I saw him do some moves tonight that I've never seen him do before. So that's cool. And to your point, I feel like he's been fully fucking committed to it, which is good. Like it's easier to invest in it with him being fully committed to it, as opposed to like The Rock basically saying, well, I'm all things, like I'm a good guy, I'm a bad guy, I'm a movie star, I'm a this, I'm a that. And we're just having a show. That's okay. But, I like when wrestling is at its best, when the guys and the girls are really committing to their characters. And I feel like Cena has done that for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he has, and I think I said this. I don't know if you and I got into. Yeah, I guess we did because we were on for 3 hours last night. But
right,
I think for me, it's like it is more interesting that Cena wins the title.
Yeah, definitely.
Our buddy Adam has checked in. I'm glad to see Adam. How do you think Ric Flair is feeling tonight?
I was thinking the same thing.
Cena 17, that way to break Rick's record. Haha. I think Rick is going to be fine with it, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I think if anything, Rick Flair probably feels left out, that they could have shoehorned him into this thing, especially because Triple H has always put Flair on a pedestal. The last couple of years, I mean, even here in the state of Florida, Gonzo in Gainesville, did you see that video of Flair in a bar and he's like going to fight
Oh,
the
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they might not have trusted Rick, or maybe they don't like the fact that they did this big retirement for him, 20 years ago or whatever it was. And he went to fucking Australia and he went to TNA and he went to Conrad Thompson. And so maybe they don't trust Rick, or maybe they feel like, hey, Rick, we gave you a big send off. So in WWE world, you're done,
I wondered that because last night or the night before last night, I don't think he was at that Hall of Fame.
I didn't see him. They never showed him on camera.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but was Charlotte? She was married to what's the guy's name? And are they divorced now, or getting divorced?
Yeah, I think they recently got divorced. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was pretty recent.
Now, do you think that it seems like Andrade or whatever his name is? He seems to be one of these guys that whenever he comes into a promotion like AEW and now back to WWE, people get excited for about 5 minutes and then he just becomes a mid-card guy.
Right. And it's weird because, yeah, I agree. And it's weird because to me, like the only thing that's really any type of barrier for him, I guess, would be like the language. Right. Because he doesn't speak like great English, although you can pretty much understand him and everything. But so it's weird because I feel like he has a lot of potential. He could be like in the mix with, maybe not at the top with like the Cenas and the Cody Rhodes, but definitely like a tier below that. I feel like he could be in the mix. And it seems like he always fizzles out at WWE and at AEW, and now come back here again, and it seems like he kind of fizzled out again. So it's kind of weird.
In AEW, he did have a feud for a few weeks with Cody.
Right.
And they had a match, I think it was a strap match on AEW Dynamite, which was actually quite good. And I think, I could be wrong, but they tried to do something with like fire or fireball or something. Adam says, but Charlotte will have the opportunity to run through the AAA roster trying to find the next Mr. Charlotte Flair. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, 0-3. Hey, look, I mean, at least she tries, right?
Right.
And I think Nate is like 0-3 or 0-4. So maybe that's one record she's trying to beat of her father's. Here's the thing with Nature's, you know what I mean? They say it's Ric Flair 16 world champion. Does that include the switch back and forth with Harley Race in early 84? In 1994, Steamboat and Flair did the Chicago rematch at Spring Stampede. It was the 5-year anniversary of their Chi-Town Rumble match, and they had another match on pay-per-view 5 years later, and it had a disputed finish. So they held up the WCW World Title supposedly on WCW Saturday Night, and they had like a rematch of Flair and Steamboat, which Flair won after a really good 35-minute type of match. So does that count as another title reign? Like, would that be a if Flair and Steamboat, Flair goes in as champion, they hold up the title, and then in the rematch, Flair wins it. Is that 2 title reigns or 1?
I mean, I think in wrestling fucking world it's 2, but and maybe not. I guess like technically, according to the fucking tally that they have going right now with him at 16-0, then it's not. I guess, but I feel like in true wrestling world, you would most of the time you would be like, oh yeah, that's 2, and try to use that in some way as an angle or storyline. But from what I heard is that as soon as they or after they had announced this match and Cena was going to go against Cody and go for number 17 and everything like that, I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that Ric Flair had said something about like, oh, well, my real fucking record really isn't 16-0 because of XYZ and whatever. And it's actually like 28. I have 28 title reigns or some shit. So I don't know if you really said that, but that's what I heard.
He probably did, because he's probably thinking of all these obscure things with Dusty, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
going back to like, I think even I want to say this was Flair's first title run when Dusty Rhodes did the Midnight Rider gimmick for the first time, which I think was '83 in Florida. They did a thing where Dusty as the Midnight Rider, wearing the mask and the whole bodysuit and walking around with the cowboy hat. The masked Dusty Rhodes beat Flair for the world title. And then the NWA president, Bob Geigel, said to the Midnight Rider, "Congratulations on winning the world title. Now show me who you are. Because for the record books, I need to know the real identity of the Midnight Rider. We cannot put an anonymous masked man down on the record books. So even if we don't tell the fans, Mr. Midnight Rider, I need to know your identity." But of course, if he was to say, well, I'm Dusty Rhodes was banned in the state of Florida, and by breaking that ban, he would be exonerated. He would be, punished or removed from pro wrestling for life. So he had to refuse the NWA World Title. So does that, if the Midnight Rider wins the title from Flair, and then they strip the Midnight Rider from the title and they give it right back to Flair, is that 2 title runs or is that just 1?
Well, I think I do think it's 2. And here's the thing too, right? Like, let's think about this for a second. Look at the wording. He's the 16-time world champion. Now John Cena is the 17-time world champion. So in my eyes, if that's how it's going to be phrased, anytime that one of those guys pins another guy or fucking taps another guy and wins a belt, whether it's fucking 3 times in one night or just one match or whatever, it counts. You know what I mean? Because if you fucking pin the guy and you technically won the belt, well, then that's another time, isn't it? Right?
Well, I mean, are you saying that a champion who successfully defends the title that gets added to his numbers?
No.
Okay.
Only if you're the challenger,
If
or
you're
like
the
a
challenger.
case what you just said is where like
Right.
he loses the belt and then he fucking beats the guy 5 minutes later and gets it back. That
Right.
type of thing.
Well, it's like you say that the Midnight Rider is a former NWA World Champion, but he had to vacate the title because he wouldn't unmask. If the Midnight Rider technically won the title, right, but then he
Right.
refuses to unmask, that
Then he
doesn't
didn't win.
change the fact that he won the title in the fucking middle of the ring.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. It doesn't. It doesn't.
But he's not listed as a champion in the record books, just so you know.
Right.
No,
Well,
nobody, not even Dusty, nobody ever says the Midnight Rider was the NWA World Champion. They do say that he beat Flair for the title, but they basically go through the whole shenanigans that I just went through. But
right.
I mean, there's another thing with WWF where Backlund went to Japan like in the middle of his 6-year title run in the 70s and into the 80s. He loses a title to Inoki, like clean in the middle of Japan. And then like 3 nights later, they're doing a rematch, and some crazy Tiger Jeet Singh or somebody interferes and like brings a fucking knife to the ring or some crazy shit, and they call for a DQ. And then Inoki says, "Well, I cannot retain this title under such harsh circumstances. I'm giving the title back to Backlund." And so when they came back to the States, they, of course, never told the fans that any of that stuff happened because it makes Backlund look worse. that he lost
Right.
clean to. But we're going on a huge tangent here. Now I have to finish with one last one because my mind's going crazy now. But Flair and Tatsumi Fujinami, um, in one of Flair's last angles in WCW before going to WWF in '92 or '91. But basically, Flair and Tatsumi had this controversial match in March of '91 in Japan at the WCW New Japan Super Show. The Japanese thought that Tatsumi won it. Flair claims that he didn't lose it. They come back to the States and they actually drag this thing out for like a month and a half. And then they had another pay-per-view, Wrestle War, the very first Wrestle War, which happened in '91, which I think was actually in Florida somewhere, maybe Jacksonville. And Flair wins another kind of dusty finish, like with the two refs, and he pulls the tights. And Flair gets the win, gets the title. So do we call that 2 title runs or 1? Who knows?
Right.
In any event, I like the fact that Cena's the champion. I think it just opens so many things up, Gonzo. We can have I mean, I guess the thing is, will it become like a Brock Lesnar title run from like 2016, where we don't even see Cena every Raw or whatever? Like he just pops in as he wants to. You know what I mean?
Probably. That would be my guess. I do think the type of guy that he is and like the work ethic that he has, he probably would be on every PLE. Now, that's not to say he would defend the belt on every PLE, but I think he would at least probably be there for just about every PLE or, almost all of them.
I think he was. I kind of had I was predicting Cena to win anyway, but tonight did you see the advertisement for the Perth shows?
Yeah.
Well, Cena was like the focus of that advertisement.
Right.
So it's like I kind of had the feeling. I just tried to sip from my Waterloo sparkling beverage, not having opened the can, Gonzo. So you can see I'm a little tired tonight. I'm trying to sip from an open can. Yeah,
have you tried? Have you tried these, bro?
Is it the Poppy? What is it? Yeah, I have had those. Those are good too.
I fucking I love these things so much, bro.
I'm with you. They are addictive, and I like the fact that they're addictive because I feel good about myself for drinking water. I had the best thing I had. It was a 7-ounce can of sparkling ice, sparkling water in a 7-ounce can, and it really was good. It was fruit punch flavored. It was great.
I've never tried those. The sparkling ice. I've never had it.
I usually see them at the Dollar Tree in bottle format.
Right.
But the can was a lot better, and it was fruit punch flavored, and it was in a 7-ounce little baby can. So of course I had like 8 of them in one night.
So those are good though. The sparkling
they're
ice
tremendous.
Ones are really good.
They are, and what I'm telling you is that it was better in a can than in the bottle, and it was the fruit punch flavor. So look for that.
Okay. All right.
Let's do our match by match breakdown. The women's triangle title match, Io Sky retains. What did you think of that one?
I love that match, dude. I thought it was a great way to kick off the show. When that match was done, I thought it was a good match and everything. I was like, wow, it was a really good match when it was done. And then Michael Cole said something like, though they went for almost like 20 minutes or whatever. And I was like, really? And I'm like, that felt like it was like fucking 8-9 minutes or whatever. So it was kind of weird because it was the opposite of last night, where last night, a lot of those first, first 5 matches or 4 matches felt like they were dragging a lot. And this match was the complete opposite. It didn't feel like it was dragging at all. And, excuse me. I love the finish. I thought the finish was great. And to me, it seems like the people are really getting behind Io Sky. So, I mean, good for her, man.
I think the people bought into the fact that she was the underdog, even though she was the champion, and these two bigger, scarier women with higher profiles and better mic skills. And that's how they were selling the program. Like, that's to give credit to Michael Cole and Pat McAfee and whoever else, Wade Barrett. They were pushing that for weeks, that Io Sky is getting overlooked as the champion. And so I mean, when the match started, and they basically did the same little gimmick they've been doing for weeks, which is Bianca and Rhea have a stare down. Io Sky has to walk in between the middle of them, and she's like, "Look at me, look at me." They've been doing this thing where like both girls will pie face Io Sky,
Right.
and this time was, I guess, the payoff where like she blocked the pie face,
Yeah. Right.
and,
Right.
I thought it was a good match, and I think this match was when the choreography that I hate and I bitched about last night. This is when the people actually get their choreography down on a good night, meaning
Yeah.
that with just the three of them, instead of a 6-woman ladder match or a 4-team, 4 teams of 2 women each, and instead of being a fucking clusterfuck, you have 3 really great women wrestlers. Wrestlers, period, but they are women. So
Right.
the fact that you have 2 girls that are muscular and athletic with Bianca and Rhea, and then you have one who's also athletic but more of a high flyer. And to me, she's more of a traditional baby face because she's fighting from underneath Io Sky, just because she's smaller. I thought it was great, and I thought that as soon as that match ended, I was like, okay, tonight's going to be a lot better than last night.
That's the same fucking thing I said, bro. Same thing I said.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I think what the other good thing about this one, first off, I guess Bianca is not going to go for the taker streak. I guess that's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I remember years ago, buddy, Edge actually had a really good streak going. He had like 7. He had like a 7-0 at WrestleMania streak, and
Until you met the Undertaker, right?
no, it wasn't that. It was something. It might have been that, but I think it was actually. I want to say that Edge. I could be wrong, but I think Edge got busted for some type of. I don't know if it was a steroid thing or I could be wrong, but I think Edge had like a 30-day suspension for roids or some shit.
Oh wow.
And this
Wow.
must, and maybe I hope I'm not making that up because he had some little thing, and then at the very next WrestleMania, he was like in a Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania, and he didn't win it. And I was like, are they punishing him because he had that little suspension? So that's really like in the deep crevices of my wrestling brain. I guess people could look that up, but I think if people find out when was Edge's first WrestleMania loss, it wasn't a one-on-one loss. It was like he was in a Money in the Bank ladder match that he didn't win, so you still call that a loss, I guess. And I
Yeah.
think
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
and he had like a little 30-day suspension right before that. So I kept thinking, well, maybe they were going to give him a run at Taker's streak, but they punished him because he fucked up in real life. Anyway, get back tonight. Our next match, Damian Priest, who had a great entrance. I'm still not sold on Damian Priest. I feel pretty good about what they've done with him after he had his title run because he had all these botches and flubs. And I don't like the fact that he agreed to lose to Bad Bunny. I mean, that made no sense to me. But he
Yeah.
goes, he had a great entrance with the Slayer guitarist, and then he
Yeah.
goes ahead and puts McIntyre over. I'm a big fan of McIntyre. And what did you think of this one?
I really liked it. I liked this match a lot too. I just I I like both of them. Huge fan of McIntyre. Damian Priest, when he first came up, whenever that was, like 3 years ago or 4 years, however long it's been, I liked his look, and instinctively I felt like, oh, this guy's probably going to be really good because I hadn't really seen him in NXT.
Yeah.
Maybe once or twice I had seen him, and but when he first came up, he was doing like this kind of like weird shit during his entrance. He used to do this thing where he's like shooting an arrow and like all these weird like little fucking gimmicks in the ring and shit, shooting an arrow, like spinning around, doing all this stuff. And I thought it was kind of weird. But then he ended up dropping that stuff like around the Judgment Day time, and he didn't do that anymore. And I felt like he kind of came more into his own, kind of refined his character a little bit and made it better. And I've always liked him, ever since that time. Really, I feel like he's good on the mic. I feel like he's really good in the ring. And I liked this match. I thought it was physical, and I thought the finish was great. I love the last like fucking 5 minutes or whatever this match was fucking amazing.
So basically, I remember Priest was trying to do old school like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
McIntyre pushed him through a couple of tables, and was it that Drew dragged him back in and pinned him, or was it the kick to the head with the chair? What was the final end move?
The final thing was he had him. I think Priest was standing outside on the apron, and he pulled him over like the turnbuckle and wedged the chair in between the middle and top turnbuckle, and then came running in, gave him a claymore kick to his head, which I think then went into the chair. I think the chair was behind his head, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But yeah, and I thought it was a great finish, and also like, you know, the whole sequence or whatever, because there was one point too where he gave McIntyre a razor's edge through the table. I think that might have been like one of the things that kind of started it off, because you thought, oh, he might beat him right now, and he didn't. But then they kind of started getting into like the last sweet sequence to the finish or whatever, and yeah, he hit him with the razor's edge. Then he pushed him off the rope, and then I can't remember exactly what happened when they came back in, but it was kind of like it looked like Drew was about to beat him, and then it looked like he kind of flipped the script and was about to beat Drew, and then they flipped it again, and Drew ended up getting him.
You know what's interesting about this one is a couple of things, I guess. It was McIntyre, I thought, from my vantage point, was winning like 65 to 55 to 65% of the match was going McIntyre's way. And typically, if that's the case with a match like this, you figure one guy is winning the match, the other guy is going to win the match.
Right, right.
That's kind of a certain way of doing 50-50 booking, like with the women's tag later on. Liv and Raquel dominated the match, but they lose the titles. Okay. So with this, I was thinking, well, Drew's winning the match, but then he goes ahead and wins the match. So
Yeah.
I'm basically thinking it seems like Drew might be knocking down the door of Jey Uso for that title. And
I would be into that.
yeah, and Jey actually the first Netflix Raw, Jey Uso beat Drew with like a schoolboy roll up, so that could be a little bit of intensity for if they even mention that. Like Drew can say, "You beat me once by a fluke, but now I'm going to kick your ass" or whatever, you know.
Right, right.
The other thing is that I feel like I'm experiencing the Mandela effect with Drew McIntyre, because I swear to God, he used to be 6'8", and now suddenly he's shrunk to like 6'4".
I don't even know. I have no idea.
I just remember him like the way that I remember him for 4 or 5 years ago, when he was like, first he was a heel, he was kind of with Shane McMahon and Baron Corbin, and then I just remember him towering over everybody, like even Brock. And now he's the same height, I think, of Damian Priest. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Because Drew, in my memory from 4 or 5 years ago, was Hogan size. And now he's Damian Priest size, which is still huge by normal human being standards. But I feel like I remember him being 3 or 4 inches taller. Am I the only one remembering this?
I never thought of it, but now that you mention it, it kind of seems like, yeah, that does seem like it makes sense. But the funny thing too is you said I thought he used to be Hogan size, and Hogan's not even nearly as big as what. Like I met Hogan at the fucking supermarket down here like a year and a half ago, and I thought he was going to be way bigger, and he wasn't nearly as big as I thought he was going to be.
I
But
think he might.
also, he's like 70 something, so he probably shrunk like a motherfucker.
He probably shrunk 3 or 4 inches because of his back
Yeah,
and everything.
right, right.
But in any event, I'm glad to see Drew get a big victory. The other thing that they talked a lot about was like this chair shot, like they did a thing where I'm going to throw the chair at your head, and I don't know if that was just sloppily thrown by Priest, and did one of the legs of the table actually hit McIntyre in the face, or what was going on there? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. there was a part where they were battling, and it was in the beginning of the match, like the first 5 minutes, and Priest like threw a chair, kind of like Rob Van Dam style, at McIntyre's head, but at the same time, McIntyre just like absorbed the fucking chair and went ahead and kicked Priest in the head. And the commentator Wade was saying, oh, he's lucky he didn't lose an eye on that. And it's like, was it supposed to be a thing? Because like typically when Van Dam would do that, he would throw it kind of flat at a guy,
Right.
and it looked like Damien in his excitement or whatever just kind of chucked it so that the legs were flying. And I think one of the legs did smash McIntyre in the head. At
Oh,
least
wow.
that's what I thought I saw, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that at all.
That's all right. So our next match, what was the third match? Was it
IC title.
Oh, okay, IC title. Oh yeah, you actually. I was thinking of you on this one, Gonzo, because I would give you credit that you called this one. You said it was going to be a really good match. I don't know if you predicted a winner. Did you predict a winner for this one?
No, I didn't. I was going for like if I the person that I wanted to win, it would have been Penta. I was going for Penta to win. But yeah, no, I didn't predict the winner, but I did think that it was going to be a really good match,
Yeah.
and it turned out to be a really good match. I think.
No, I think, and that's why I was thinking of you, because you said that last night. I asked you if there was matches you were looking forward to, and you
Right,
specifically
right.
mentioned this one. And I was kind of overlooking it just because nothing wrong with any of the wrestlers. I just thought it'd be another clusterfuck, multi-man one title match. But actually, it did have a storyline. The contrasting styles worked out very well. This was similar to the women's 3-man match at the beginning of the show. It was another situation or another match where the wrestlers actually did great with the modern day style of wrestler one hits wrestler two with the big finisher. The other one jumps in and breaks it up. The fourth guy comes in. So the modern choreography type of shit, if you do it right, it does look pretty cool, and it does have a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, and this was another one too where I love the finish because I didn't expect that to be the finish. Didn't expect Dom to win at all. Never expected him to win. So that was cool because it was like, oh, okay, you got me, because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And I liked how I liked the little sequence at the end there where whoever it was hit their move and then or got the guy in the submission, and then he came flying. Oh no, Balor hit his move on Breaker, pinned him, and then fucking Dom came in with the frog splash during the pin. I like that finish a lot. I thought it was really, really cool.
And it also saves Breaker. He didn't get pinned.
Right, right.
He has his but. And then
and now with the Judgment Day, you could actually have a little something to build off of as far as like heat within the thing, heat within them.
Yeah, because earlier in the match, Dominic had screwed over Finn like 2 or 3 minutes before then. So they
Right.
You know what I mean? So I thought it was really good, and I would give you credit that you predicted it, and give the guys credit. My buddy Laza from Australia, from Brisbane. Good day, all. Greetings from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. So Laza is probably like, tell us what time it is over there. Probably 4 to 5 in the morning. And Laza, let me know what you thought. So of night 1 and 2, Laza, let us know what you think. What was the next one, buddy? Was it Randy Orton time after that?
And I think it was Logan Paul and AJ Styles. Hang on, I think it was.
I think Randy came before them.
It was. Yeah, it was Orton. Orton was next.
And I could be wrong, but I remember saying to you last night that I thought Orton was listed 6th on this show, and
You did actually, yeah.
So I was looking right at the fucking format page or whatever, but so I guess they changed it, and I thought it was great. I haven't seen enough NXT or TNA to really know this whole Joe Henry thing, like the magic that is Joe Henry. This was my first real experience with it. I did see him in the Royal Rumble, and I've seen some of the memes and tweets and clips, and it feels like just one of these wrestling comedic phenomenons where a certain wrestler strikes a certain amount of the fan base, kind of like Enzo and Cass 10 years ago. And then,
You know who I would compare it to, almost to a T, is Damien Mizdow
oh, yeah, that was great.
from like 10 years ago. Like that guy fucking struck lightning, and I feel like
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing with this guy.
right. And 1:32 p.m. Oh, that's not bad. So
Oh, that
that's
ain't bad at all.
you had a nice early WrestleMania. And is it Sunday for you or Monday, Laza? I'm curious.
It's gotta be
Um,
Monday.
yeah. So I thought for what it was, I was actually surprised, Gonzo, that I thought it would just be like at the beginning when they kind of faked an RKO or Henry Nice did a nice schoolboy to block the RKO. I wouldn't have been surprised if that would have been the whole match, just one RKO and done. But
Right, right.
they gave the guy, I won't say the kid, but they gave Joe Henry a solid 5 minutes. I thought he had his offense. I thought he had some. I guess that's his gimmick, is the spin to camera with the smile.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I thought all that shit was good. And I guess if anyone was going to pick on this thing, they'd say, well, they just had the TNA World Champion just job to a WWE guy in 5 minutes. But for me, if you just look at these two guys physically next to each other, who looks like the real wrestler and who looks like
Right.
the TNA wrestler, right? So,
And
I,
and plus it's Orton. Like he was
right,
doing that to Orton.
yeah. So I thought it was good, and I think for a guy, I mean, let's talk about jumping the line. We didn't have Otis. We did. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, throwing this in the middle of the conversation here, is the guys that we did not see at Mania and women. No Nia Jax, no Chelsea Green. I was kind of predicting Chelsea Green would be Valeri's substitute partner so that they had the U.S. champion and the Intercontinental champion for women together on a team. And I thought maybe Chelsea would turn on Valkyrie, and then they have a U.S. women's champ versus women's Intercontinental champ thing brewing or whatever.
Yeah.
But no Chelsea Green, no Otis. Lexus King, the Heritage Cup champion, does comedy skits for NXT. Braun Strowman, no Braun Strowman.
Right.
I don't know who he pissed off because he was another guy. I mean, kind of like Sandow, but more of a legitimate main event type of guy. But Braun Strowman, who did he piss off to just be left off Mania this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if it has to do with his health. You know, that's always what I wonder, because I know that he's older than I thought he was. You know, all this time I thought he was, you know, probably in like maybe his really late 30s right now, or just hit 40 or something. But I want to say he's like 45, 46. He's definitely older than I thought he was.
Hey, Laza or Adam, look that up for us. How old is Big Braun these days? I'm going to guess 42 as of now. I'm going to guess 42, but we'll see. Who else? Was there any other WWE universe? And here's the thing. I mean,
he's 41.
41. All right.
Yeah, so I was way off.
Yeah, it's 41. I mean, that's older. Yeah, so no, but to me, it's like, well, if he's in great shape right now, and to me, Strowman's been very loyal and very good to the WWE. I mean, the way he tells the story, Strowman, he was left off WrestleMania in 2020, and so he just said, well, I'm going to drive my home for the week. I'm going to drive home for the weekend. And then he's driving home in his Jeep or whatever, and he gets a bunch of urgent phone calls saying, there's a huge pandemic. Be very, very careful. But we need you to come back and take Roman's place against Goldberg. So he went from being off the show that year to winning a world title over Goldberg.
Oh, that's right. He beat Goldberg in that match. Right.
Yeah, he beat Goldberg, and then it was actually Bray Wyatt who beat him. And then they had like a 3-man match of Bray Wyatt, Strowman, and that's when Roman came in with Heyman. And that was during the whole Thunderdome era with the TV screen, right, and all that crazy shit. Right. Laza says, still watching night 2. As far as night 1, too much overlaying where they didn't need to with a lot of things like matches. Also can't stand the childish commentary plus shit graphics. So I guess Laza's got some issues with the show. I turned 39 on June 12th. Well, happy pre-birthday. So Braun is not much older than me. Yeah, and that's one thing, Gonzo, that I think I was not talking to you about that, but before that, I did on Friday night a live stream after the Hall of Fame where I was basically saying, as we get older, we are more critical of these wrestlers because we're no longer looking up to them. Like when we were 13 or 15 or even 20, looking at these wrestlers and thinking them as gods. And now, maybe because we're getting older, but also because of social media, and we know, hey, the Usos have been arrested a bunch of times, or Charlotte Flair's
Right.
been divorced 3 times. Now we know that these people are terribly flawed. You know what I mean? So
Well, yeah. It's like we start to consider the real person, human element of it that we never considered before. When we were young, we looked at whoever Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair as that's who they were, and never considered like the real person under the fucking costume, like the real human element part of it. And now that we're older, I mean, we obviously see that for sure.
yeah, yep. So speaking of a real person, I believe the next match after Joe Henry and Randy Orton, and of course Randy gave him the little bonus stunner and or cutter
Yeah, and
or
I was hoping he was going to do that too. I said, I hope he does it again. I hope,
yeah.
and then he did. And I was like, nice, dude, nice. He got him. He got
Was
him
the
twice.
was the next thing Steve Austin, or did they go to Logan Paul, AJ Styles right
I
after?
think they went Logan Paul, AJ Styles.
Right. So as it was kind of interesting, Orton was in what they would call the comedy match or the gimmick match.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Orton was in the comedy relief, which is interesting because that's not something he would normally be in. Um,
right. Yeah,
I
he
guess
wouldn't.
you could say when he fought the Fiend at WrestleMania, 6 or 7 years ago, that was, or Bray Wyatt, that was kind of a gimmick match because they had all the shit going on with the ring and stuff.
Right, right. I would
So our
agree.
next,
Yeah.
yeah, what's our next match? So this one, mixed feelings. What did you think, AJ Styles, Logan Paul?
I mean, I liked it, but wait, I'm trying to think who won? Logan Paul won, right? He pinned him
Yeah, I
clean.
can't
Yeah, Logan
because
Paul won.
I don't even know who Logan's little friend is, but a little ratty guy showed up at ringside with brass knuckles, looking very
Oh yeah, and then
mischievous.
Karrion Cross came out, right?
Karrion Cross comes out, and it's like, here's another guy that Vince apparently hated and Triple H apparently loved because like I think he was fired for a while from that, but basically Karrion Cross comes up on Raw and he loses to Jeff Hardy, who puts his feet on the ropes,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
like they have a rematch and Jeff Hardy wins again, and they really fucked up Karrion Cross on the main roster 5 years ago, and the late great Kevin Castle and I would debate on X because I'm like, what are they doing to your boy Karrion Cross? And Kevin Castle's a wrestling podcaster who,
yeah, and
well,
yeah.
yeah,
He just died, right?
yeah, he just died. He just died.
Yeah, it's too bad, man.
And I think he was a real life friend of Karrion Cross, and he loved
Right,
Karrion
yeah.
Cross. And I'm like, dude, they just dragged him out with a red demolition mask. What the fuck are
Yeah,
they
it's
doing to the?
fucking ridiculous, ridiculous.
So
And
here,
I got into Karrion Cross when he was Killer Cross in TNA, and he was like Austin Aries, like fucking bodyguard or whatever. And and that was probably like fucking 9 years ago or something.
yeah,
And I thought I was like, wow, this guy's fucking great. Like this dude's intense, man. He's really good. And then I saw a little bit of what he was doing in NXT before they fucking castrated him with that helmet and the fucking bootleg demolition gear and shit. But
yes,
in NXT, he was killing it. And then, but it seems like, yeah, he hasn't really been able to find his footing. I did like the pairing of him with the AOP guys, but it just seemed like that never worked out. And it seems like I know for a fact that he's a really creative guy. And plus I like, if you follow him on social media, he posts a lot of like videos and stuff that he fucking produces on his own,
right,
that are like vignettes and stuff. And they're, most of the time they're really good. And it seems like maybe he's a little bit like handcuffed creatively at WWE. I don't know why, Especially considering that, Triple H is so high on him and obviously, sees the talent in him and stuff. And, so I'm hoping, what I'm really hoping is that this goes into like a really good fucking feud / story with him and AJ, because I think it could really work if they, play the cards the right way and have a nice like feud that lasts a while and kind of builds to a crescendo and has some good story elements and stuff. I think it could really work. So I'm hoping that that's the direction that they go, because it seemed by that finish that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, unless they really just forget about Cross. This was, yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, it basically, okay, Backlash, AJ Styles versus Karrion Cross, and AJ can lose to this, social media guy Logan Paul, and he has the somewhat excuse of I was distracted. When I say the yeah, but that's a term I got from Shane Douglas, because Shane Douglas says that a babyface can lose a big match, but he's got to have a yeah, but that the fans or the wrestler himself can kind of hang his hat on and say, okay, you beat me, but I was
But
distracted.
yeah.
And the reference that Shane Douglas used was he was thinking that instead of losing to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, Undertaker could have fought Sting, like bring Sting in for one big match against the Undertaker with no warm-up matches for Sting. He faces the Undertaker. No, I'm sorry. I think he was saying that they could still have done Undertaker versus Brock at that WrestleMania, and then Sting comes in from the rafters at the end of the match and fucks up Undertaker, and Brock beats the Undertaker, and then they can say that, okay, Undertaker lost to Brock, but the yeah but is yeah but it's because of Sting. So then they could have a Sting versus Undertaker match, and even though the streak is gone, they still have this thing that everybody wanted to see. So even though the Undertaker would have lost to Brock and people would still be pissy about the streak coming to an end, the big yeah but would be, I only lost because I was interfered on by Sting, who I've never even seen before.
I mean,
Um,
I love that. I feel like that's a great idea for sure. And the weird thing about it too is like when Brock Lesnar beat him and ended the streak, Brock Lesnar didn't even need that at all. Like
right.
that to me, that didn't really do much for Brock Lesnar at all. He was already fucking massive at that point.
Here's my pushback on that. Brock had been gone for 10 years. He comes back, I think, in 2012, and his first match back, I think they actually had him lose to Cena.
Oh,
And
did they?
then
Yeah, he did. Yeah, right.
it was almost like, can we trust this guy? We better have him lose at least once. And then he was kind of middling around, and then he has like an angle with Triple H, and at his first WrestleMania back, which would have been a full year because basically he showed up on the Raw the night after Cena lost to Rock at the Mania in New York. So Brock's around for almost a full year, and his first WrestleMania in part two of his career, he loses to Triple H at Mania. And they had like a 3-match pay-per-view series that Brock won 2-1, but his one loss was at WrestleMania. And so my point is, the next year when he goes out and he beats the Undertaker, I actually defend that because he was kind of like 50-50 going into that match, meaning like he'd lose to Cena, he'd beat Cena, he'd lose to Triple H, he was back in the top mix, but he wasn't dominant. But once he beat Undertaker for that streak, that's when shortly thereafter they had him suplex Cena into oblivion at SummerSlam.
Right.
And that's
Yeah,
when he
and
had 3 or 4 years of title dominance.
yeah, and honestly, that sounds like that makes sense to me too because I actually had just started watching wrestling again right after that WrestleMania, so I didn't catch that WrestleMania, but it was maybe the next, I think 2 weeks later, not the Raw right after WrestleMania, but the one after or the one after that is when I started watching it again. So honestly, Mike, my perspective is not totally on point because I didn't see any of the stuff leading up to it, like what you just explained.
Yeah.
So it seemed like he didn't need it. but I definitely see your point on that as far as like him getting booked the way he did leading up to it. And I mean, I don't think it really fucking hurt either guy. Like, sure, Undertaker could have had an undefeated streak at WrestleMania forever. That would have been cool, and I feel like that would have worked. But it seemed like to me, from everything that I heard, is that not Vince McMahon was kind of hell bent at ending it at some point. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of the impression that I got.
I think that's probably accurate, and also, I think it's kind of one of those things where what value does the streak have unless somebody ends it, right? It's kind of
Right,
like what
right,
what value does Bret Hart have if he leaves the WWF with the title? We have to get the title off of him so that we get value when he leaves. So I think at the time, buddy, I want to say that the Undertaker was still wrestling on his original hip. And when he went in to fight Brock, he did not look good anyway. He had that weird mohawk, and he
yeah,
hadn't
right,
wrestled in like a full year, and so he was hobbling around on a bad hip anyway. And I think that since then he had a hip replacement, and he wrestled after the fucking hip replacement. So that's how I feel about it. I think the thing for me that's kind of goofy is I think that if he were to lose to Brock, like I said, I didn't have a problem with that. But then he wrestled at like 4 or 5 more Manias. He
yeah,
wrestled Roman. He wrestled Bray Wyatt. Here's another thing about Cena. People are saying, well, Cena never hasn't been heel in 20 years. Well, Cena was a heel against The Undertaker when they had that unofficial match at Mania like 5 years ago.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned that last night,
Yeah.
and that's
So,
a good point.
yeah, let's get to our next match. What was the next match? After Logan and AJ, I
With
think
Stone
Austin,
Cold,
yeah, which here's the thing. I get it. It's just a feel good segment, but I kind of hope that there would have been more to it. If that makes any sense, like that would have been a good
he
thing.
didn't stun anybody, bro. He didn't fucking
Yeah, there
stun
you go.
anybody.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a thing where if you had, I'm trying to think of who it could have been. Well, I know who it, in my ideal world, I actually pitched to Lexus King Pillman Jr. My storyline for him to wrestle Austin, which I think was great. And I think the problem that I have, not personally, but I think Lexus King Pillman Jr. I'm feeding him great ideas. He doesn't do shit with them. Like I don't think he tells
Ah,
anybody. You know what I mean? And I know
yeah,
it's him that I'm talking with because I've met him. We exchanged Facebook messages, and he came out and meet me in person. So I know that it's him.
right. I saw the pictures of you with him like a year or two ago.
Yeah, it was actually at this point it's like 4 years ago. But
Oh, is it okay?
yeah, it was when he was with AEW and he lived. I like the guy and I like his wrestling, but I have really good ideas for his career, and I tell him that it's not a secret. And I'm like, dude, go to the fucking writers, go to the people, and what can you do, right?
Right, right.
I think there are and I think Pillman kind of falls into this category, unfortunately, which is wrestlers that are really they're happy to be there. They take their assignment, but they're a little bit shy or timid or afraid to push themselves, like really fucking push themselves, really push themselves to the writers or to Triple H or to whoever the fuck. Like they feel that it's not my place to pitch a storyline because I'm just the talent and I'll just do what they tell me to do. And to me, if you have that luxury of being in the show, so to speak, then fucking take that opportunity to push yourselves because you're just getting older like everybody else is, you know?
Right, right, right.
So in any event, if Austin was going to stun somebody, it should have been Lexus fucking King, is my point. And because I have a whole storyline for those two. So anyway, moving on, we have Austin. They make a big beer bath. I also thought of you tonight because I looked into upgrading my Peacock from the poor man's $79.99 a year to the $140 a year. And I think that I didn't really see what would happen if I try to push the upgrade button. But I guess I paid in advance the $80, so I'm paid up for the whole year. And it's like at this point, if I change my plan, what happens? Do I get jacked for another $60 or what the fuck ever? And who knows? So I suffered through another evening of tons of commercials while you were enjoying the wonderful vignettes of the wrestlers, Gonzo.
When's your year up?
I think it's not till like August or something ridiculous.
Oh well, yeah. At least you're almost halfway there, or you're more than halfway there.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were going to prorate it or what the fuck would happen, and I just was kind of like, I can't deal with this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I pay by the month, so I pay by the month, so
I try to pay upfront for anything. Like with mobile, I use Mint, and I pay $360 at the beginning of the year, and that covers the whole year of unlimited phone and text in the U.S.
yeah, it's a
So
good deal.
yeah, Laza's chiming.
Is your service good with that?
Yeah, because it's actually it's um, it's Mint, but it's T-Mobile. The towers,
Right. Okay.
It's the same as T-Mobile, just with a different name.
Okay.
And you get to support Ryan Reynolds in his quest of ruining a poor guy's career. Yeah,
he's funny.
Well, he's involved. Him and his wife are trying to ruin a guy's acting career. They're involved in a big lawsuit. Yeah, just go look it up. It's Ryan Reynolds and his wife, who's pretty hot blonde, and she made a movie
Lively,
about
right?
what's her name?
Blake Lively, I think.
Yeah, she's suing her co-star / director. They made a movie about women's physical abuse from a husband, and basically she's saying, well, this guy really was a jerk. Like, it's very convoluted, but if you look it up, it's just look up lawsuit Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively. It's a whole big thing.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah. So Lazo's saying Lexus King Pillman Jr. needs to tap into more of his father and show a bit more loose cannon by the sounds. Exactly, buddy. Maybe WWE could do a loose cannon tribute where Pillman Jr. starts pipe bombing like his father, Brian Pillman, as the loose cannon in CM Punk. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Laza. I agree with you. And Brian Jr., he's actually a lot different than his father. At least the loose cannon as his father portrayed. Like in real life, Brian's a very, I would say, clean cut, moderate dude. You know, like he's just a straightforward. If anything, just like I said, I'm not picking on him. I just think he needs to shove these ideas down people's throats because I feel like he's got the talent to be the top guy or one of the top guys. But you know, he could have been in that Joe Henry spot, or he could have, you know, whatever. I think I heard of the Ryan and Blake argument with the actor director whose name I can't remember. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I said, just look it up on YouTube. It's all over the place.
I gotta look that up.
So we had Logan Paul. I don't have much to say about this further, except, I mean, I think Logan Paul, his match against Roman Reigns, and I guess that was his best match. But I mean, he is really extraordinary. But I do feel like he's a law of diminishing returns. Like at first it was just like, oh my God, this is the guy's fourth match, and look what he's doing with Roman, or this is the guy's second match, and look what he's doing with Mysterio. And now, you know, he's just another guy at this point. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that it is kind of like the diminishing because the sheen like wears off. You know, he is only going to stay like this rookie dude that does this phenomenal shit for so long. You know, eventually he's not a rookie anymore. So I think the sheen of that wears off, and I feel like that they haven't, you know, done anything that significant with him, and that's probably the issue, is that he needs to be involved in something that's really significant, and it seems like this AJ thing kind of got rushed together.
Yeah, it did feel rushed together, and it just felt like, okay, WrestleMania is coming up. AJ Styles is one of our go-to guys. He's not going to be around much longer. That could be another reason why they had Logan beat him. I would think that Styles is 15 years older than Logan Paul. So, and Styles has actually said that he's on the way out. Like, he's not looking to stay around much longer. So, I think, I don't know. I mean, here's a way to get Karrion Kross over. Have Karrion Kross retire AJ Styles. Like, if Styles is serious about retiring, then I can see Triple H saying, "Hey, do you mind if we have you go out on your Shield to Carrion so we can get him going?" Who knows?
And that would be fantastic. Actually, I think that could really help get Cross, over, and especially if they did it in a way where it wasn't just like, oh, a career versus career match or career versus something match, and he just pins him clean or he just beats him and then it's over. It would be really good if they did something where he Cross really does some sinister shit and fucks him up really bad. So it's like, yeah, he might beat him if they have that career type of match, but he also hurt him, where he can't really wrestle anymore.
Yeah, and that way they could actually say, "Okay, AJ, we're going to retire you, but if you ever feel like coming back for one more match a year later or 2 years later," and unfortunately, those one more matches a lot of times these days happen in Saudi Arabia because those guys are willing to pay the big money for them.
Right.
So then I think we go to the women's tag match. We talked about that a bit earlier.
Very strange co-main event, man.
Well, here's the thing, and maybe I guess I don't put much.
I think it's because Becky was in it,
Well, here's my thing, buddy. I don't consider that a co-main event because it wasn't promoted or advertised as a co-main event.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't mean. I meant like the match before the main event is kind of what I meant, not co-main event. I spoke wrong on that.
Yeah, I know that in UFC, I mean these verbiages get blurred because in UFC world,
it's always a co-main event.
Yeah, because in UFC it's a little more regimented. Like your big title match is the main event. They'll never say that the last match on the show is a co-main event, but basically they might advertise, the second match almost as much as the first or whatever.
Right.
But it's clear, like sometimes you have a co-main event. If it's for a title, it'll be 5 rounds. And I think they've even done a few times when the co-main event is not even for a title and they'll still do 5 rounds. I think they've done that.
They've been doing that for like maybe a year or two now.
Yeah. And I think for me, the difference with pro wrestling, and I could have sworn that the Randy Orton thing was supposed to be 6 tonight, and maybe they thought because Becky's coming back or who the fuck, but they're like, we don't want to put a gimmick match, before the main event or whatever. I thought the ebb and flow of tonight's show I wouldn't have messed with it, and I didn't personally have a problem with the ladies tag going 6th. If anything, it's kind of a nice contrast, and maybe it sounds misogynistic, but a ladies tag team title match where you have Liv Morgan, who to me, she's like a little princess. Like she's very cute and attractive, but would she actually hurt anybody in a legitimate fight? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Right. But she just like sex appeal to me, and she's a good wrestler, true. But I mean, I don't consider her a threat to anybody. But to have them go on before Cena and Cody, which in this world of wrestling is kind of a serious issue thing, I thought that was a fine contrast. And to their credit, I thought that women's tag team match was actually a really good tag team match.
Yeah, I mean, I did think it was a good match. It just, yeah, although I do kind of like your point of it being a good contrast. That I didn't even think about it like that, and that does kind of make sense because it kind of breaks it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I mean, yeah, I was fine with it. It was a good match. Becky Lynch coming back, I thought was a pretty big moment, and people really got behind that and like that. So, and honestly, I didn't really expect them to win because that kind of tells me Becky must be back now, back.
I think so. I think they're going to do a little. I don't think her and Valkyrie. I say her name wrong all the time. I mean, I think it's going to be a little bit of a program. I think it's kind of interesting that they mentioned tonight, and it's not a secret either, but they said Cole or somebody said, well, Becky's husband had a big night last night, and referring to Seth, which I guess you'd say is a heel turn, like Heyman and Seth as a power couple is a heel group as opposed to Roman and Heyman, which was a babyface group or whatever. So I think it's always interesting when Becky and Seth are still on TV and they're living separate lives, because if you remember this atrocity, they actually had Seth Rollins and Becky teaming up as a babyface couple for a
I remember
couple of
that.
months. It was atrocious. And it's like,
No good.
yeah, and they had them wrestling. Who was the military blonde chick?
Oh,
And
Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin was like
Right.
Lacey
Yeah.
Evans and Baron Corbin against Seth and Becky was the main event of a fucking pay-per-view. And
Yeah. I'm not into that.
so when I say that the best thing to happen to the WWE fan was AEW, it's because when they finally got some fucking competition and they had guys like Jericho and Moxley going to this other company, and the other company, at least for a while, had some pretty interesting storylines or at least different stuff, then at least the WWE got a little bit of competition where they had to fucking try for a change.
No, that's a good point. Definitely a good point.
Let's get to our main event again. We have. I like the Cena entrance with the all black. What did you think of either Cena's entrance and then Cody's entrance with the helmet?
I liked the Cena's entrance with all black. And I liked the Cody's entrance. I didn't understand the motocross guys. I figured that was just because they're in Vegas and motocross is big in Vegas. So I figured that maybe that's why, unless I'm totally missing something and it means something else. But I liked the mask too. I liked how that because he wore that mask. I think he wore a mask like that last year too when he went against Roman. But that one didn't open up like this one opened up. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought, and maybe this is just old school shit because I wrote a report card on this guy when I was like in the 4th grade. I thought of Evil Knievel, which was a motorcycle guy
Yeah,
in
yeah.
like in the 70s and 80s, and I thought, I was trying to remember, did Evil Knievel do a bunch of crazy shit in Vegas? Like, was that
I
his
think
stomping
so.
grounds?
I
Right.
think yeah.
I thought him, and I think that when I see Cody, I'm always remembering. I think he used to say that Sting was his favorite wrestler as a kid, and I think a lot of his, outfits are kind of Sting-esque.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I never really noticed that, but yeah, they are.
Let's take a look at Laz's stuff. He's had a few good comments. He was talking about Lexus King. I put all his comments on the screen, but we were talking about different things. Laza said, I hate how world title matches on our opening show matches at events like WrestleMania. They've been doing that for a while, though. I mean, that goes back to when they had the Universal title and the WWE title. For instance, at the WrestleMania that was 7 hours long, like WrestleMania in 2019, Kofi Kingston was running wild, but I think it was something like the first match on the show was Seth Rollins beating Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and yes, and I was thinking of that too. I was going to bring that up. He beat him in like fucking 5 minutes or 4 minutes or some shit.
Right. And like he kicked him in the balls or he did this and that.
Right.
And then it's like that was one of those, and that's the weird thing about Brock in this he's lost to guys in 5 minutes. He loses to fucking Drew McIntyre. Like when Drew McIntyre beat Brock, people magically forgot that a year earlier Seth had chumped Brock out. So it was kind of a weird thing with Lesnar.
Right.
But on that same show, the Kofi Kingston Bryan Danielson match was like 5th. And then you still had like another 3 or 4 hours before Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky. So
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I think the thing is, Laza, last night me and Gonzo were talking about the WrestleMania from I guess 2021, where the first match of night 1 was Drew McIntyre losing by submission to a full Nelson to Bobby Lashley. I guess that would be for the WWE title. And then the second night, it was, I want to say, Roman against, was it Danielson and
Orton or
Cesaro?
something?
Wasn't it Cesaro and Danielson versus Roman in a triangle match?
No, not Cesaro. No. It
Edge.
was Edge. Yes, Edge.
Right. So my point is, they have a supposed world title to open the first night, and then the second night, the other men's world title singles ends it. The reason why I think they do that, Laza, is I think it's a bookend. They think like, okay, we put one world championship to open this 2-night spectacle, and the other world title, we kind of want you to forget that there's another world title, so we'll put it first, and then we'll have all this other stuff, and then we'll have the other world title. So they bookend the show. That's how I interpret that.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought too, like last night, because my buddy texted me and said, why are they putting this Uso and Gunther match on first? And I said to him, well, the main event, has no title on the line or whatever. And I said, I did see some people online kind of like bitching about like, oh, Jey Uso and Gunther is the title match, and they're probably not even going to headline night one.
Right.
And then, by a week or two before WrestleMania, that became very clear that they weren't going to headline night one. And some people were kind of bitching about it. And then when my buddy messaged me yesterday and had mentioned it to me, I said, they probably put it on first because they want to put as much distance between that and the main event as possible. So by the time the main event comes around, people have already forgotten about that match.
Yeah. And it's kind of backwards thing. That's the whole issue with having two world titles in one company. That's, to me, why it's a bad idea, but they do it. So you just have to run with what they do.
Right.
And
right.
the thing for me is, oops, sorry. Ow. Oh, I just took a bump.
You good?
Yeah, my laptop just nailed me in the shin, right in the shin. That's going to bruise. That'll leave a mark. That'll leave a mark, buddy. Yeah, I pulled the cord down with one foot, and then the laptop is going to give me a Mandy Rose forehead, or not even fucking, what's the chick? Tiffany Stratton forehead. There was a picture today of Tiffany Stratton with chipped teeth at the end of her match with Charlotte. So did she really chip her teeth, or was that not true?
I don't know. I mean, my girl mentioned to me earlier today, like this morning, that she said, "Oh, that girl got hurt in the Charlotte match," and I was like, "Who? Charlotte? Charlotte got hurt in her match? Is that what you said?" And she said, "No, the other girl." I said, "Oh, Tiffany Stratton got hurt," and she said, "Yeah, I think so." But I didn't even look it up or anything. But I'm assuming that's probably relates to what you're talking about.
Yeah, at the end of the match, it wasn't the very end, but Charlotte, I call it like an open face bulldog, where basically Tiffany's standing there, Charlotte jumps off the top rope and kind of just does a head slam of Tiffany's head to the mat. And the first wrestler I started seeing doing that was Sting. Like, Sting used to do that all the time, and they really didn't even have a name for that move for a long time. And I just started calling it the open face bulldog, because it's kind of like a bulldog, but you're just kind of shoving the guy down.
Right.
And
Right.
Charlotte did it to Tiffany, not Mandy Rose. And we see like a little cut on Tiffany's head, but it was actually like a welt. And then after she won the match, she sits up, and it appeared like she had a bunch of front teeth chipped.
Wow.
Okay. Laza's saying, if they book and instead of decreasing the value of your main world titles, why not reverse that spot as an NXT title bout to showcase your development brand like an ECW spot on Raw back in the day? I'll give you what I think is the answer, buddy. I think that I think how NXT works, I could be wrong, is that those wrestlers are on a very predetermined salary. I think that the NXT wrestlers, I want to say they get something fairly low, like $75,000 a year as a flat rate. And the whole idea of NXT, at least at one point, was, we're not going to pay you that much money. There's not much room for growth, because we want to incentivize you to do your best so you get put up to the main roster. So the NXT thing, in a sense, is kind of a shoot, in that the wrestlers are supposed to be motivated by earning more money and getting more exposure to be elevated or called up to the main roster. If they start putting NXT title matches on WrestleMania, then they no longer have a carrot of motivation to be elevated to go beyond NXT. That's how I interpret it.
No, that makes sense. I would definitely agree with that.
Because I think Gonza, did I share my little debate last night of they could call Stand and Deliver at WrestleMania. They could call that NXT WrestleMania, or WrestleMania presents NXT Stand and Deliver. They could throw the WrestleMania moniker on the WrestleMania weekend NXT show, but then you're kind of defeating the whole point. Like if you just called AAA baseball Major League Baseball with more teams, you know what I mean? Like what do you
Right,
have to
right,
strive for as a wrestler?
right,
Tiffany
right.
looked, yeah, Tiffany looked pretty messed up by Charlotte. Noticed her mouth and the big lump on her head, and I think that was from the open faced bulldog that I was talking about. I know it may have been story, but do you think Charlotte may have tried to injure Tiffany on purpose to take her spot, and it was legitimate? What do you think, Gonzo?
Man, it's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, because I don't know if their heat was real at all, or if it was manufactured to create buzz. And I don't know. Just given where Charlotte is in that company and where she came from to where she is now, and all the titles and the angles and the feuds and everything that she's been in the last whatever 10 years that she's been around. Uh, I have no reason to believe that she would be very unprofessional. So my guess would be that she wouldn't be that unprofessional to try to hurt her opponent out there. But again, you never know. Could be totally wrong on that, and she would be willing to hurt her opponent, or she did hurt her opponent. So yeah, that's a good question.
I tend to think that Tiffany and Charlotte. I mean, there might have been some. I don't know. Maybe I've just been watching wrestling too long and think that every single thing is a work. But I mean, I just thought that I think that Charlotte encouraged Tiffany to say some of the 0-3 stuff. And I just feel like Charlotte wanted to get a good program out of Tiffany. And, maybe, I mean, Charlotte didn't wrestle for what, 11 months? And Becky didn't wrestle for 11 or 12 months. So I think some of these women wrestlers who are established, I mean, the reality is, folks, with the exception of Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, the women wrestlers typically don't have as long as careers as men. Their bodies change quicker than men's. Some of them are starting to have kids and stuff like that. So
Right.
I think the women wrestlers are kind of more open to passing the torch in their 30s instead of dragging on to their 40s and 50s and 60s. So that's what I think. I think Charlotte, maybe there's a little level of fuck this bitch, she's trying to take over my spot, but I would like to think at least Charlotte is helping Tiffany get over. But I think the disappointment for both Charlotte and myself and anyone else is that their match did not live up to expectations because it felt sloppy. And we went over that. If you watch our thing in retrospect, Laza, me and Gonzo really got into that. Yeah, I think I remember this, Gonzo. Do you remember anything that Laza's talking about Charlotte with Tony Storm? Like, did they have some type of real life riff or something?
I don't know, but I think I did hear something like that, and that was part of the reason why Tony Storm, got out of there and went to AEW.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but that does sound kind of familiar to me.
I saw a Cornette video that was labeled today. Cornette discusses, is Mariah May going to WWE? And I didn't watch the video, so I don't know if that was just a viewer who were speculating what if Mariah May goes to WWE. I will give my thoughts on it real quick. I think she would be a pretty big success, but then again, I thought Scarlett Bordeaux would be a pretty big success, but um,
Right.
I just think it's like, okay, you have a gorgeous woman, but with Mariah's case, I think she could actually wrestle, and Scarlett is just kind of eye candy. Um, let's finish up with our main event, and then we'll call it a night, Gonzo, because I know
Okay.
you
All
you
right.
got to do stuff. But thoughts on the main event?
You know, all in all, I like that Cena won. You know, I did think it was a solid match. Um, my only, you know, kind of weird. I thought what was weird about it is thought there was just going to be more chaos or more commotion, you know, for the finish. And you know, I thought it was going to probably be another, like, you know, I thought The Rock was going to come out for one, and the fact that
Right.
The Rock never came out like really blew my mind. But yeah, to me, it was just kind of weird that the only fucking, you know, like I said at the beginning, the only external factor in that match was Travis Scott coming out and getting involved, which I thought was weird. Not him coming out getting involved was weird, but that being the only thing I felt like was kind of weird. But at the end of the day, uh, I think they got to the right conclusion. I think Cena definitely should have won. And I think that, you know, that was the right conclusion. So, I mean, does it really matter about, you know, what happened in the match? Not really. You know, they got to the, you know, the destination that they wanted to get to. So, you know, I'm all for it. And like you said, it opens up a lot of different avenues that you know, that could go in 100 different directions. So you know, I'm looking forward to that, to see where it goes from here. If it goes right back to Cody, or if it goes to you know, somebody else or whatever. I'm very interested to see that. I think this probably going to be a rematch very soon, though. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that they can definitely squeeze the immediate pay-per-view rematch out of it, and they have to have some type of thing where, why is Cena willing to come back when he told us that if he won the title, he was going to go home and retire the title? So they got to do something where, what's Cena's motivation? What's in it for him to defend it? And
Right, right.
I would say this, and Gonza, you tell me if I'm just a fucking old guy who doesn't know what's hip and hot in the world of whatever the fuck, but I didn't know who the fuck Travis Scott was, or before the Elimination Chamber. I don't think I ever saw the guy in my life, and I didn't. I just thought he was just another one of B level pop culture guys. Does he have a million great songs that I'm just not listening to and everybody else is? Am I missing out on the Travis Scott dominance of pop culture, or does this guy just marginal and has a minimum amount of talent, and they just go gaga over him because he has a million Instagram followers? What's the deal with Travis Scott? Who the fuck is this guy?
Um, yeah, I don't fucking know, to be honest with you. You know, that's a name that has been going around for a long time, and I know that they have like Air Jordans that you can get that are, you know, Travis Scott edition and this and that. So but for the longest time, I didn't even know that he was a fucking musician. You know, I heard the name Travis Scott, and I wasn't even sure, you know, what he was necessarily. But you know, I honestly thought in the beginning, I thought he was related to clothing somehow, because the only time I was hearing his name was like, oh, Travis Scott edition shoes, or Travis Scott edition this or that or whatever. So I never saw him really. I think the first time I ever saw what he looked like was probably at Elimination Chamber. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Apparently, I think it said he was maybe Grammy nominated or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but I thought that's what I heard them say. Um, or that was on the graphic on the screen or whatever.
Yeah.
But and he's also the guy that, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago I think it was him. He had this show in Houston, or in Texas, I should say, actually, and a bunch of people died. You know,
Right.
the people rushed the stage basically, and a bunch of people in the front got trapped in between the people behind them in the gate thing, or the fence thing, and or the barricade, I should say, and a bunch of people died. I think that was him.
Um, his name is Travis Scott.
Yeah, and he had his own music festival thing. I want to see if I
I
can.
remember this story, and I'm just Googling it. It was 2021 because I remember it was pandemic era.
Right.
On November 5th, 2021, a fatal crowd crush occurred during the Astroworld Festival, an
Right.
annual
Right.
musical event hosted by American rapper Travis Scott at NGR
Yep.
Park in Houston, Texas. 8 people were pronounced dead on the day of the
Yeah.
incident, and 2 more
Yeah.
died in the hospital in the following days. So
It's
why the
crazy,
fuck
bro.
is the WWE having this guy get a fucking musical entrance as I what the fuck are they thinking?
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. I don't know.
my lord.
Because
And
to me, I don't think he brings anything to the fucking show. I don't think he brings anything to the show at all. And I don't know if that's just because I'm old or
right.
what, but I don't think he brings anything to the show.
On June 29th, 2023, a Texas grand jury declined to indict Scott or anyone else associated with the incident. Okay. So
Yeah, because
basically,
they paid some money, bro.
yeah, there was some undercurrent stuff. I wonder if they had any civil suits against Travis or
Probably.
anyone else.
Probably.
So I think that's a thing that other people have commented on, that it's clout chasing the WWE is doing now,
Right,
where
right, right.
they just seem to be so fucking celebrity hungry. And it goes back to when they edged out Jimmy Johnston, the music guy, and they brought in, who the fuck were they? LAO or LOL
Oh,
or
yeah, right, 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 right. Yeah, I know what you're talking
the
about.
music guy,
Yeah.
LMFAO. they
Some
they
shit
brought,
like that. Yeah.
right, and then suddenly everybody's music sounded like the same fucking generic shit.
Right.
And Jimmy Johnson actually has a really good interview with Conrad Thompson where he talks about that a little bit. Um, so yeah, Travis Scott getting a musical entrance in the middle of the main event. I'm just thinking here, like, what? Like, of all the celebrities you've had at Mania, from
Right.
Donald Trump to Lawrence Taylor, or the ones that Snoop Dogg, the ones that don't wrestle, you're going to give this fucking asshole a fucking
Yeah.
music. So I don't know, but
I don't know.
I'm happy that Cena won just because it makes life more interesting. I don't think it hurts Cody that much. I
No.
think Cody had over a year title run, and I mean 10 or 12 years ago, even, I mean, if you remember, even in the Austin Rock Mick Foley era, you
Yeah,
were
it was
lucky if
never
you
a
got 2
year.
months in a row, you know.
Right, right, right.
All right, buddy, I'm going to let you go, man.
All right.
And thanks for doing this 2 nights in a row. We didn't go to 3 hours tonight. We went to hour 43, but I appreciate it, man. And Gonzo, you have anything you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, not really. I mean, if anybody that watches this, you can follow me on Instagram, at the Gonzo Shark. And other than that, yeah, that's about it. Just you follow me there and see, whatever I'm up to and shit that I have planned and whatever. You find it there.
I appreciate that. And for me, for anyone that just caught this thing, it's one Mike Messier on YouTube. Not only this channel, but one Mike Messier on X and Instagram. And thanks, everybody. Hope you had a great
Good
WrestleMania week.
talking to you, Laza. Thanks for joining in, man. All right, Mike. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Okay, bro. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man. Later.
Good night.